will. Thank you. Okay, thank you. It's not as freezing cold anymore, so I appreciate that. And I apologize that you're in that. I wish I could, And I can imagine with the coat, it's just the legs, women don't get that option, with the open legs. I know, well, I have this pashmina, but it's not that thick. I might have to go out and get a blanket.
Mr. Beckman, you may resume.
Thank you very much, Judge Baldwin. You ready?
I am.
We're going to turn back to Exhibit 2358. There was one thing I kind of glossed over. I rushed to get out for lunch. On page 30 of that document, remember we were talking about the SWOT SWOT analysis?
Yes, sir.
And we've got it, you're welcome to look at your copy, we have it pulled up here for you. We talked about how the T stands for threats. Do you see that?
I do.
So you see things like new product entries and introduction of competitive, improved patch technology. Those are threats that are listed, right?
That is listed, yes, is that?
2 under that, we see something that says move towards evidence-based prescribing. You see that there?
I do.
So evidence-based medicine is the conscientious, explicit, and judicious use of current best evidence in making decisions about the care of individual patients. Why would evidence-based prescribing be a threat to Janssen?
Object to the form of the question. Mr. Beckworth just provided the definition. No testimony about what that means.
All overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm not sure what's meant by that.
2 below that, it says risk of negative incident, higher and non-malignant indications. Why are higher negative incidents in non-malignant indications, why were they a threat to Janssen's pain franchise at that time?
In this context, I'm not sure I know.
You don't dispute, though, that it says in your analysis that the move towards evidence-based prescribing is listed as a threat, correct?
Those words are there, yes.
Now, earlier we talked about how Janssen, you would from time to time hire consultants to help you with different types of work, correct?
Correct, yes.
One of the ones I mentioned was McKinsey & Company.
Correct.
They've been a long-time consultant for you.
McKinsey is a consultant in the area, yes. We've engaged with them.
All right, I'm going to approach with 2 exhibits, 1252 and 1253. One is a sponsoring email and one is an attached document.
Yes, you may.
Those, please. We'll start with the email, ma'am. States Exhibit 1252 is an email from Brad Gray at McKinsey.com. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay, and then the 2 line lists a number of employees of Janssen and J&J, correct?
Yes.
The CC line does as well, correct?
It appears to, yes.
And in the sent line, it's dated March 15, 2002.
Yes.
Okay. There, below there, do you see where it says Duragesic Disease Modeling Team?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Now, can you read what it says next?
In the first paragraph?
Yes, ma'am.
Over the past several weeks, we have made significant progress in using the disease modeling approach to identify priority growth opportunities for Duragesic in the U.S. chronic pain market. In particular, our workshop of March 11th surfaced 3 broad opportunities for further exploration. These are...
Okay, and then it lists things like increasing share of chronic back pain patients, increasing total flow of chronic pain, back pain patients, and increased retention of chronic back pain patients. Do you see that?
I see that.
Okay, and then it says, in addition, as we've laid out in the attached document, we have identified 10 potential strategies for capturing these opportunities.
It says that, yes.
Okay, now if you'll go down to the next paragraph, it says, over the next several weeks, we will be working together to develop size, cost, and prioritize these tactics behind these strategies with the aim of developing 3 to 5 big ideas by the end of April. Do you see that?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, we will offer states 1252 as a business record produced by Janssen in this case with their paid consultant, McKinsey. Thank you.
That was quite an introduction to the document, but it doesn't mean that it's not hearsay. It's actually the records of McKinsey. The mere fact that it ends up in our file does not make it ours. It's something I brought to the court's attention before, and we object accordingly.
I'll overrule the objection and admit states 1252 as the evidence.
Okay. Now, similarly, Your Honor, on 1253 that I've also handed to counsel and the witness, that's the attached document. We moved to that be admitted on the same basis.
Yeah, I considered them one and the same, so the same objection.
1253 will be admitted as the evidence over the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'd ask that 1253 be published, please.
Motion granted.
Ma'am, we're looking at the cover sheet of this document. If you'll look down at the bottom, it says this report is solely for the use of client personnel. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Now, we're going to work through this for a little bit. And Your Honor, may I approach the board?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So if you'll turn to, we'll show you, but if you'll turn to this page, ma'am, 2, this is workshop 2. We just described what was in the email about what this document is about. One more way. And here it says, workshop number 2, surface 3 fundamental opportunities. We're going to kind of go through this document. Number 1 identified was increase the share of patients shifting from immediate release to sustained release opioids captured by Duragesic. You see that?
It says that here. I think it's one thing to just ensure the court understands that these are McKinsey's words. This is a report from McKinsey to the franchise at the time.
Okay, and you paid McKinsey,
Yes, this was a McKinsey report.
and you kept working with them because we're going to go over, I think the court will allow them in at workshop number 3. So this was an ongoing relationship about how you and your paid consultant McKinsey were going to work together, right?
Well, this specifically is a report out from the working relationship.
You paid them,
We did,
didn't fire them,
not that I know of,
still use them today.
for different projects.
So yes.
We work with them, yes.
Okay. Purdue uses them too.
I have no idea.
Okay. So here it says increase. You see that word?
Yes,
Okay. Share. You see that word?
I do.
Okay, let's go to the second one. Next it says increase total flow of chronic back patients. And it's talking about going from immediate release to sustained release opioids, correct?
It says that, yes.
And back at this time, sustained release is what Duragesic was, right?
Correct. Long acting.
Now, 3 says increase retention of chronic back patients on Duragesic whenever medically appropriate, right?
Correct.
And one of the problems that you had in the market for Duragesic is that patients didn't want to stay on it. True?
No, one of the issues that was happening was, or what part of looking at all the documents, it appears that Duragesic patients would discontinue, potentially due to the fact the patch wasn't staying on. So they were looking at why the patients were not continuing on.
And when whatever the reason, we'll get to that in a moment, but let's just accept what you said is the reason. When you lose patients, you lose money.
Well, again, if the doctor deems that that product is appropriate for that patient, and they feel it's the best product for them based on the benefits and risks, then you would want that patient to stay on the product.
If they stay on it, you make more money.
Well, if they stay on it, then the prescription is written.
And what
So
happens?
ultimately, yes,
Guess what?
we would continue to, if the patient is prescribed and the patient, adjudicates that at the pharmacy, yes, we would make money.
Okay, thank you. Now, if we can turn to the next page. Now, this one talks about looking at the chronic back pain market in terms of the available market. And let's just look at this for a minute. You, with your consultant, McKinsey, referred to patients as stocks and flows. You see that?
I see those words.
Okay. All right, let's turn to the next one. Now here, when you're working with your consultant, McKinsey, it lists opportunity number 1. This is the one about increasing share of patients shifting to sustained-release opioids. Now, if we look over here in strategy, you see here where it says the strategy, top left?
I do?
Redirect sales force towards specific physician segments and other key influencers, right?
I see that, yes?
That was an important part of your business because your sales force is what you used here in Oklahoma to drive sales, right?
The sales force is one of the assets that we have.
And when you targeted physicians, you did that not based on just random ideas. You had specific data, and you could tell who the potential high prescribing doctors were.
Those were the doctors that were prescribing long-acting opioids, and you would want to educate them on your product.
And they were good potential customers.
They were customers that were writing long-acting opioids.
Including OxyContin.
Yes,
In fact, you would go and look at who was writing a lot of OxyContin, and you would send your folks to target those doctors to try to get them to write scripts for your drugs.
so OxyContin was part of the long-acting opioid marketplace, yes.
And you wanted to take market share from Purdue and take it for yourself.
We wanted to differentiate Duragesic from the competition, yes.
Now, this document is in 2002. Very aware, we talked about earlier, your own KOLs have told you we had a crisis brewing right then, right?
So this product, or this document is in 2002. This is McKinsey's, this is a brainstorming session.
Yep.
Not necessarily anything that actually came to fruition. So it is like I said, a brainstorming session.
I appreciate the answer, but that is not what I asked you. What I asked you is by 2002, you knew we had a crisis brewing with respect to opioids. We just showed what your KOLs were telling you about the oxy problem, right? You knew that then.
So I remember what the KOL said in that specific document.
So the answer is yes.
The answer is I remember that they said, there was problems with overprescribing.
Okay, overprescribing, thank you. Let's take that back, Mike. Now, if we can go here, one of the questions we asked are we properly targeting and influencing prescription behavior in the pain clinic? You see that?
I see that.
Would creative contracting help in this setting? Do you see that?
I do.
Now, I know you're saying this is McKinsey's document to you, but again, you didn't fire them, did you?
We did not.
Okay. Now, I don't see educating here. We do see targeting, right?
Yes,
We see influencing,
we do.
right?
It says that, yes.
We see prescription behavior,
We see that, yes.
and we know that when you oversupply, people can die.
Those are your words.
It's true.
Excuse me, Your Honor, he's asked her that about 10 times. I object, it's cumulative and repetitive.
Let me ask you a question. Do we have an opioid crisis here in Oklahoma?
You have established that, yes.
Do you believe there's an oversupply of prescription drugs?
Excuse me, Your Honor, same objection.
Your Honor, with respect, that's a completely different question. I asked her if there's is there an oversupply of prescription drugs?
Of prescription drugs?
Sure.
In my capacity, I can't answer that.
Would it be bad to have an oversupply of prescription drugs? That would be bad to have too many prescribed.
Again, it depends on the situation and the circumstances. I don't know if I can answer that.
Well, you eat potato chips.
I do,
People market potato chip bags.
yes.
Are
And
we
I
gonna-
love potato chips.
Well, I'm sure we all do, and the thing about it is when you love them, if we have too many of them, we may gain weight, but we're not going to necessarily die from eating one chip too many, right?
I hope not.
Okay. Well, the problem with addictive narcotics, unfortunately, as we heard Julio Rojas say, is once people start taking those, they fall in love with them too. You heard him say that, right?
Some patients.
And unlike a potato chip, If you oversupply a narcotic opioid, you can't just keep eating.
You lost me on that.
Well, an oversupply of a narcotic, whether it's a patch, a pill, or something else, has deadly consequences. True?
Excuse me, Your Honor. Same objection. She's already testified she doesn't.
Sustained.
Now let's go up to the top of this. Let's go right here, Mike. It asks another question. Are Duragesic prescriptions currently driven by physician preference or specific patient attributes? And we see that word there. Are your drug prescriptions driven by a physician preference? You see that?
I do?
Okay, thank you. Now let's turn to the next page. Continue along on opportunity number 1, and there's a lot of information in here. One of the things we're going to look at is down here. One of the strategies we see in trying to shift patients from short-acting to long-acting, what's being suggested is target high abuse risk patients. And it gives the example of males under 40. Do you see that?
I do?
Target high abuse risk patients. And it goes over to say, and ask the question, what are the patient segment breakdowns for Duragesic and Oxycontin for chronic back pain? Example, age and gender. It says it right there, right?
I see those words written.
Why would we target high abuse risk patients?
Well, I will say that I don't believe that we ever did that.
That would be troubling.
Oh, well, I don't believe we did that.
I'm asking a different question. It would be troubling to do something like that, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily, and I think we talked about this in my deposition. This may have been a situation where there are patients out there that could be at a high risk that need this type of pain relief, and the thought process was Duragesic in the patch format less abusable? And so this was just, again, a brainstorming session where that was put on the paper.
Let's just accept what you said as fact for a second. If you were targeting high abuse risk patients and asking the question of whether your drug was more or less abusable or appropriate for them, you would agree with me that when you go into a doctor's office to talk about the abuse potential of your drug versus another one, you have to be very careful and very precise with the information and data you gave that doctor, right?
You would give them appropriate data, yes?
You have to give them precise and accurate data, right?
You would give them accurate data, yes?
And no matter what you may think or know about potential risk of addiction or anything like that, we do all agree, I think. Or, let me ask it this way. You would agree with me that if you're targeting high-risk patients, we got to be really careful there. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
Okay. Now, right below it, it says use clinical data to influence physician payer choice of long-acting opioid. You see that?
I do?
And it asks what data will influence payers and physicians' role in near term. Is there a potential role for return to functionality data? You see that?
I see that written.
So again, I see influence. Education's not there, is it?
Not on this McKinsey document, no.
Okay, let's turn to the next one, please, Mike. Now let's look at opportunity 2, which is to increase the total flow of chronic back patients to sustain release opioids. Strategy. This is interesting. It says move patients who are stuck in class 3 and 4 opioids to class 2 opioids. You see that?
I see that.
Move physicians who are stuck. And then it goes on to say adapt marketing tactics to changing regulations. You see that?
I do.
Why would you need to strategize to move doctors into the class 2 opioid?
Well, I think that the key questions here is, are there physicians who are in that situation? And again, it goes back to the appropriate patients. Are there patients that are needing more analgesia that could benefit from, in this case, in our case, it would be Duragesic?
Well, you had, as we've heard and talked about so far in this trial, we had a history where physicians prior to 1996 were not prescribing opioids broadly for non-cancer pain. You've heard that testimony thus far, correct?
I have, yes.
And here we have a strategy to move physicians into class 2, right?
Again, this is the McKinsey document that's a brainstorming session, and they're asking, are there physicians who are not appropriately prescribing for a patient's pain?
Would it be wrong for you to adopt this strategy and try to move doctors to put people off of 3 into Schedule 2? Would that be wrong?
Not necessarily,
Okay, so did you fire them for telling you to do that?
no.
Okay, thank you. Let's turn to the next page, please. Here we have another strategy. If you look at the second one, target patient-physician segments with high duragesic duration. You see that?
I do?
Okay. And then go back. Down below it, it says decrease impact of adverse events on duration use. You see that?
I see that.
Okay. So one of the things that's being talked about there is if you have an adverse event, does it cause a patient to stop using it? And what can be done to keep patients staying on your drugs, right?
Well, the key questions are which adverse events are most likely to cause a patient to terminate use?
Right, because the whole point of this opportunity is to increase retention, right?
Again, what we talked about before as far as retention. It's deemed appropriate, it's the appropriate patient, it's deemed the best product for that patient, and what are those types of side effects that are causing them to discontinue?
Who's deeming?
The physician.
Who's educating the physician?
Well, the physician is educated through multiple means,
Including
the sales representatives.
your sales representatives?
Yes, including their peers, KOLs, literature that's in the marketplace.
Including literature you funded?
Not necessarily,
But it's possible.
possibly.
Including KOLs you paid?
Yes, possibly.
Including speaker bureaus that you conducted?
That speakers were trained on, yes.
Including your sales reps that you paid?
Yes, including the FDA's approved label that the physician would look at as well.
Okay, thank you. Just turn to page 10, Mike. So here we look at patient segments. Here in age, it lists 3 different ones. Under 40 and then 40 to 64 and 65 and older. Do you see that?
I do?
And it says on the second bullet under rationale that Duragesic currently trails Oxycontin in under 40, even though it's spelled said backwards, even though its abuse advantage is strongest here. You see that?
I see that.
So you had a market of under 40 people, and you were struggling to keep up with Purdue in that category, right?
It just simply says that Duragesic currently trailed OxyContin in this under 40 market.
But when you come to gender down below that, one of the things we see is that Duragesic has a traditional advantage over OxyContin with females. You see that?
I do?
You know anything about what's happened to the female population with opioids here in Oklahoma?
I do not.
You know anything about what's happened with women 40 to 64 here in Oklahoma?
I do not.
Do you know that's among, if not the most impacted group with opioid use disorder and death in the state of Oklahoma?
I did not. And I also don't know what the impact of Duragesic has on that either.
Unfortunately, we'll get into that too. Now, if we can go to the next page. Chronic back pain physician flows. Here we see what are the settings of care for opioid high prescribers and treaters of back pain. Example, elderly, long-term care. You see that?
I do?
So we're talking about high prescribers, right?
Yes,
Including elder and long-term care, right?
I see that,
And then
yes.
ask, are we currently targeting and influencing these groups properly, right?
I see those words, yes.
You see those words, but you don't see educate.
And again, you and I will argue this till, the only way I feel that we can influence is through education. And again, this document is Mackenzie's words.
Well, and that's the thing about you and me. You're not paying me, you were paying them, right?
They were a consultant for us,
And
yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over. They were a consultant for you, yes?
Yes,
Educate's not used there,
the word educate is not there.
but we do see influence, target.
We do see those words.
Those two words are all over the documents from your company, not McKinsey, your documents, right?
We see those, and again, I've described to you, targeting is a word that is used throughout businesses. That is the audience in which you focus. And influencing, again, influencing, the first step in an influence is through education.
So I'm going to ask if you'll do this. You don't have to agree, but I'm just going to ask you if you will. If we go over a document today that's one of your documents or somebody you paid, and it uses the word influence, target, or influencing, and it says what we really mean by influence and target is to educate, would you stop me and tell me, aha, we've got one, and we'll stop and we'll talk about it? Will you agree to do that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Now, if you'll turn to the next one, please, Mike. There again, we see setting, and then we've got segments to look at. Pain clinics, you see that?
I do?
Elderly long-term care, you see that?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mike, if you'll turn to page 17. So here, we compare the gender of OxyContin and Duragesic patients. You know, you heard me say earlier that there was a lot of comparison between Janssen and OxyContin, or Janssen and Purdue. Remember me saying that when we first started this trial?
In what context?
Well, in a lot of contexts. Let's just look at this one. Here we're comparing gender and the percentage use of prescriptions. Over here on the Oxy side, we see 55% female, right?
I see that, yes.
Importantly, on Duragesic, we see how much?
65%.
Okay. That was a group that you targeted.
This is a group that was outlined in this brainstorming. I don't necessarily remember us targeting specifically females.
Do you deny that Janssen targeted females?
I don't deny it. I don't recall us targeting females specifically.
Let's turn to the next page. Here we have patient stocks calculation. We're looking at total prescriptions in 2001. You see that?
I do?
Okay. And we've got Duragesic right here. See that?
I see that.
3.43 million.
I see that.
And OxyContin is 7.183 million.
I see that, yes.
So right there, you're a little bit less than half of Purdue's OxyContin, right?
Yes.
What's interesting is the average number of prescriptions per patient, 5.8. The same, right?
It looks that way, yes. Across the board.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. This is one of y'all's. Just let me know if you have an objection. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
We hand you Amp States 3962. Email between parties. I believe me and Mr. Ottaway have an agreement that such documents are not going to be objected to on authenticity or hearsay grounds. We in agreement on this one?
Said I would agree on authenticity. It may contain inadmissible hearsay, but we'll figure that out in just a second. We have no objection to this document.
It's exhibit 3962 will be admitted in the evidence.
Your Honor, may we also publish?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Man, we're going to go through several of these kind of short documents now, and we'll try to move through them as quickly as possible. Here, there's an email from a Janus employee with a subject of 340 green and hospital teams. Do you see that?
I do, yes.
Okay, and if you will look there, it talks about 340 green. That is a name that was given for one of your sales forces, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, we're just going to go through this document and we'll kind of talk about what it says, and I have some questions for you. Probably the best way is to let me to read it, and then I'll ask you questions as we go through. First there it says, as you know, the Duragesic brand is growing consistently, and we are targeting the 1 billion mark this year. You see that?
I do.
It goes on to suggest that in our continuing effort to support you and your teams, we're implementing a number of programs and tactics to help ensure we achieve this goal. See that?
I see that, yes.
And then it talks about the Duragesic Making Connections Pain Management Program.
I see that, yes.
So there in the next paragraph, it says the need for this program was initially identified through analysis of the drop-off rate of Duragesic patients compared to those of other long-acting opioid medications. Specifically, Duragesic patients quit therapy at a 10% greater rate in the first 2 months than those of our competitors. By reducing this drop-off rate to the market average, Duragesic would gain additional revenue each year. You see all that?
I do.
Okay, so when you lose a patient, it causes you to lose money, right?
Again, if that patient, drops off, yes.
Now, let's take the converse of that. If you keep a patient on a long-acting opioid, the longer they stay on them, there's a potential for greater risk. True?
I don't know if that data is available.
Well, tolerance increases, dependence increases. True?
Again, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know that.
And as you go longer in the process, the need to titrate up to get the same effect, that increases.
Again, I think this is based on if the patient is prescribed the drug for as long as it's appropriate for that patient, you would want them to stay on the drug that the doctor deems most appropriate for them. If the patient is dropping off prior to what that appropriate time frame is, that's what this is about, is identifying why that patient is discontinuing therapy when they still need pain relief.
Well, you don't have to stay on an opioid forever, right?
Depending on what the patient's pain is, that's a decision between the patient and the doctor. I don't know how long. I don't think it's a specific situation where for this you stay on this long. I don't know that.
Well,
I'm not a medical professional.
Sorry, an opioid like Duragesic or any other long-acting opioid, it might take care of the pain feeling, but it doesn't cure the pain, the cause of the pain, right?
And we talked about this in my deposition. The pain is caused by something, and so oftentimes that you can't, during the treatment of that situation, there may be pain, more pain, less pain. But again, the symptom or the causation is treated differently. I can't talk to that.
And so staying on your drug or any other long-acting opioid a long period of time, that doesn't cure the underlying cause of the pain at all.
Not necessarily, no.
Right. So you keep them on there for a long time, right?
Well, for instance, degenerative joint disease, it continually progresses. Is there a cure for that? Not that I know of, and that patient may continue on that pain treatment because that is a degenerative disease.
Well, chronic back pain, for example, we saw in your opening remarks, Jansen was making fun of the state's idea that in an abatement plan we would use therapies like yoga and meditation, exercise, and proper things like that. I mean, of course, oftentimes you have pain that it can go away if all the underlying things are done, right?
Object to the question, Your Honor. It was a speech, then followed by a question, so I object to it and ask it be stricken.
Overrule the objection. Go ahead and ask the question.
Could you ask me that question, please?
using your opioids long-term, they don't do the things like yoga, meditation, exercise, diet, other types of modalities and therapies. Those can help the pain go away. What your opioid does is mask the way it feels, right?
I don't necessarily agree with how you've described that, no.
Can you show me that an opioid will cure the cause of a pain?
I don't believe that we say that an opioid or our opioid would cure anything.
Okay. But you did want to keep people on those opioids longer.
As long as the prescriber believes it's necessary for that patient.
A prescriber's belief influenced by your efforts.
Educated through our efforts, but again, that clinical decision is up to that doctor
Based on your influence.
based on multiple information that they have available,
Including yours.
including the education that our sales reps provide, including their peer-to-peer, including many different things.
Keeping your potential patients on your drugs longer was part of your business marketing strategy.
Again, across any therapeutic area, if a doctor deems your medication appropriate for a patient, they've deemed it the most appropriate. If
Well-
that takes place, then you would want to keep that patient on that drug as long as it's working for them, as long as they tolerate it. That is the concept here.
Man, this document is about patients. You want to keep the patients on, right? A doctor can't force a patient to do anything.
No, but again, you're determining what is the patient issue that's causing that drop-off.
You wanted to build a billion-dollar business. It says it right here, right?
We were growing our pain business.
You had a specific marketing strategy that used the phrasing, start with, stay with.
That I don't agree with.
We saw it in opening statement. Start with Duragesic, stay on Duragesic.
It was
Absolutely
not,
said that.
it was not a marketing campaign.
What was it?
That was in a document that was never, I never saw that in any marketing campaigns that went out to the public.
It was your internal one.
Internally, they talked to or used those words, but that wasn't necessarily something that we used in the marketplace.
It's what you used to market your drugs.
I disagree.
So much so that Purdue reps got mad that your own reps in the field were using start with, stay with, something that Purdue had been using.
And that's hearsay, so
It is.
yes.
I guess your attorney should have objected because I don't think it's hearsay. You know it happened.
I do not.
You deny that your own documents strategized to have a start with, stay with message for Duragesic.
Again, I go back to if those words were used, that was a retention type of program. That wasn't necessarily a motto or something that we used in the marketplace.
Ma'am, when you're targeting a billion-dollar brand, you don't do that for pro bono education, right?
What do you mean?
Well, you keep using education, and we're talking about educating patients and everybody to use your drugs and stay on them. You wanted to build a billion-dollar brand, true?
We were building our pain franchise, yes.
You did build a billion-dollar brand.
Duragesic ended up, yes, to be a
You
billion.
didn't do that. I'm sorry, I spoke over you. You did do that? Built a billion-dollar brand?
Duragesic ended up to be, yes.
And you did not do it just to educate. You targeted doctors so you could make that money, right?
Again, when we use the word target, target is a specific audience. In the Duragesic, what we use the word target, that's the audience by which we were focusing our sales representatives to go out and educate. Those are based on long-acting opioid prescribers. Those were who our sales representatives went out and educated. So did we target the higher volume, those physicians that were writing long-actings? Yes, because we felt that was the appropriate individuals to educate. They need to know how to prescribe our drugs appropriately. And those were the physicians who were writing the long-acting opioids at that time. So yes, we did target or focus in on those prescribers.
So to the extent doctors oversupplied or overprescribed, you were part of the education and influence effort to those targeted doctors, right?
I don't agree with how you frame that out.
You don't agree that you targeted doctors?
No, I said we did educate and focus in on doctors who were prescribing opioids,
Okay,
long-acting opioids in that time frame.
Let's look at the next one. Approach, Your Honor. States Exhibit 1246. Your Honor, we move to admit States Exhibit 1246 is a document that Jansen produced in this case.
No objection.
Says that the 1246 will be admitted into the evidence.
May we publish this one, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
But ma'am, you referred to your sales force based on the number that we're calling on doctors, so certain times you called it the 275 sales force.
Yes.
So this document is a memo to them, and let's kind of break it down based on what you were just talking about. Here we have a document that says, congratulations to the 275 sales force. With your leadership, Duragesic attained numerous all-time highs in prescription and dollar volume in 2000. Due to your efforts, for the first time, Duragesic attained $400 million in 2000. You see that?
I do.
Okay, so right here, we're talking about achievement of prescriptions and dollar volume, right?
It says that, yes.
And who does it attribute the efforts to? Doctors, other factors, or your sales force?
It's talking to the sales force.
Due to their efforts, right?
It says that, yes.
Okay. Down below there, it says, thanks to you, 2001 promises to be an exciting time for Duragesic. We will surpass $500 million in sales. Do you see that?
I see that, yes.
Okay, let's go to market update. There it says the chronic pain market continues to grow rapidly and represents significant growth opportunity for Duragesic. It's what we talked about earlier. There's a growing market, chronic pain, that you wanted to use as a growth opportunity, right?
Well, the chronic pain market is growing rapidly and represents a significant growth opportunity.
That doesn't mean that all of a sudden there's an exponential change in people that have chronic pain. It means that the market of those in chronic pain is being expanded by the marketing efforts of you and Purdue and others that are trying to get long-acting opioids used in that space, right?
No.
So was there an event between 1988 and 1999 that just made people start having chronic pain? Because I don't recall it. Do you?
No, but what this is saying is that the incident, I don't know what happened to cause the chronic pain market to increase, but there was more chronic pain that was being diagnosed and treated.
That's an interesting statement. There was more chronic pain being diagnosed and treated at the same time from 1997 to 1999 that you launched your product as a product for chronic pain. And all of a sudden, boom, there's a market that grows. Right?
No.
Well, let's look at it. Right below, in 2000, the market grew nearly 50% versus 1999. That means if there were 10 million people in pain, the next year we had 5 million more. Just boom. What happened? I don't remember it. I was a young lawyer working for Mr. Patterson and Mr. Nixier. I don't remember it. Do you?
Again, if there's a question, I don't mind him asking it. The speeches, I wish we'd strike from the record.
I'll ask you.
Thank you.
Do you need to rule on that?
I'll sustain the objection. Go ahead and rephrase it.
What happened? Why did the market grow by 50% in 1 year? Chronic pain. Why? How? What happened?
I don't know.
Wow. The majority of this growth is a result of the dramatic growth in the chronic non-malignant pain market. What happened?
Again, it's the same question.
Where did all these people come from?
I am not a medical professional. I don't know where that came from.
And I'm not minimizing at all pain. I'm not. I've got 2 elderly parents. I get it. But how did chronic pain just explode? How did it happen?
Excuse me, she's answered 3 times. She doesn't know.
Sustained.
We go down below it. Amazingly. When this expansion of chronic pain happens, Duragesic grew at 28% in 2000, right?
It says that, yes?
And lo and behold, you hit several all-time highs in monthly prescription volume. It says it right there, doesn't it?
It says that, yes?
Well, let's go down to high decile physicians and see how that happened. It says the high decile physicians continue to represent significant opportunity for Duragesic due to their high volume prescribing of chronic pain medications. Right there, you see it?
I see that, yes?
And that sentence goes on, and this is interesting. The disparity in share between Oxycontin and Duragesic. You see that?
I see that, yes?
There was a gap between Duragesic and Oxycontin. It was opportunity, and you wanted to get in there and take as much as you could, right?
Again, we were calling on doctors that were prescribing long-acting opioids, and the goal was to differentiate our product versus the competitions in appropriate patients.
Opportunity.
To differentiate, yes.
Opportunity to make money.
Well, opportunity to differentiate our product in an appropriate patient. If the doctor deemed it appropriate, yes.
Doctors that you were targeting.
Again, these are the doctors that were writing long-acting opioids.
Well, let's talk about those doctors. Even though our deciling methods has changed, the same 8,000 physicians that we focused on in 2000 are still those that we will concentrate on in 2001. You see that?
I do.
With an even greater emphasis being placed on the top 1,000 who account for 20% of all doctors in the pain market, right?
Of all dollars.
Dollars, right?
That's what it says, yes.
Okay. You had a very targeted group of targets.
A focused
This
group
was precise.
on physicians. And again, these are the physicians that are writing a significant amount of long-acting opioids that you would want to educate around the appropriate use of your medications.
You say appropriate, but you want them to write your drugs.
For appropriate, it says right up in the very front end that for the appropriate or appropriately positioned Duragesic.
Appropriate as taught by your sales reps?
Well, it's based on our label. It's based on, yes, appropriately positioning.
And on your marketing slogans, right?
Again, the promotion that you're having around your drug, specifically your product, is based on your label.
So let's look at that. Life interrupted, that's one. Life uninterrupted, right? See that?
That was a marketing campaign, yes.
And it says in 2000 we conducted extensive market research to assess the effectiveness of our new promotional campaign, right?
It says that, yes.
Physicians overwhelmingly stated that life interrupted message was credible and compelling enough to cause them to prescribe Duragesic as a first choice for chronic pain. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Now, words do matter in my opinion. I don't know if they will to everyone else, but let's focus in on that targeted word. You see the word becoming between compelling enough and them. There's something there, isn't it?
Cause.
Cause. Thank you. Now, under expand Duragesic use in non-malignant pain, the first sentence there says, physicians are becoming more comfortable using opioids in non-malignant pain, right?
It says that, yes.
Okay, thank you. We're done with that one for now. Your Honor, may I approach? Mr. Ottaway, we've got 2366. Ma'am, I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 2366. This is a memo from a Johnson & Johnson or Janssen sales rep. Kelly Van Berkeley. We move for admission at this time, Your Honor, of States 2366.
We have no objection to this document.
States 2366 will be admitted into the evidence.
May we publish this one, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Okay. Kelly Van Berkeley, it lists Dallas 275. Now that's how y'all would show the region that somebody worked in the sales force, right?
I'm not sure. It looks like Kelly is probably from the Dallas district.
Okay, and I'll represent to you that she's a sales agent or rep that also worked here in Oklahoma. Now, let's go through this document a little bit. Here she says, Janssen has provided us with a great marketing tool to help promote the use of Duragesic to our high-routing pain physicians. You see that?
I see that, yes.
And it goes on to discuss the coupon program being a way to change the opinions of physicians that do not write much Duragesic. You see that?
I see that written here, yes.
So that word change, that means take somebody from one place to another, right?
Potentially.
The opinion of a physician, right?
It says that.
Okay. And it says that physicians may be more inclined to try Duragesic because patients are now able to sample Duragesic free of charge. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Let's go down here. She says the following are ideas that have been successful in my territory to get the physicians to utilize the coupon program. Number one, it says sell the coupons like they are a third product and close for action. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Does not say educate, does it, ma'am?
It does not say the word educate.
Sell the coupons like they are a product. That's what it says.
It says that here, yes.
And then it goes on to talk about how you do that with the doctor to get them to use coupons, right?
It says that it's a way that they could try Duragesic.
Okay, now let's go to 3. Display the coupons in a prominent place for easy access and to help remind the doctors of the program. You see that?
I see that.
It's very important to explain to the staff that you will replenish their coupon supply every month. This is very important so the doctors do not save the coupons for special patients. See it right there, right?
I see that written, yes.
You wanted the doctors to use the coupons so patients would use the drug. True?
You're using the coupons for a trial so that the patients can see whether or not that they can tolerate the drug.
In truth, coupons were a marketing strategy that Johnson & Johnson used that had a very high rate of return.
The coupons coupons in this sense are used to, again, allow patients to trial the drug to see whether or not it is something they can tolerate and benefit from.
And it cost you money?
Yes?
That was an investment
Yes.
upon which you expected a return?
Again, you're allowing the patient to trial the drug to see if it's beneficial to them.
And the return for you is what?
You don't do a return on samples.
You didn't view coupon samples as something that you would invest in to get a return of investment on? Make sure you're writing all this down, please.
So a sample program, again, is to allow a patient to have a trial of the drug to determine whether or not they tolerate the drug.
So it was just a pro bono altruistic thing?
It's intended, again, to help the patient and the provider trial the drug.
Would you turn to the next page on page number 10, please? Why don't you read that one? Tell the doctors and staff that the Duragesic coupon should only be used as a sample program, one per patient and not as a patient assistance program. You see that?
I do?
Inform them that Janssen has a separate program for patient assistance, Most doctors agreed if the coupons were used as an assistance program, the coupon program would be too costly for the company. Says it right there, doesn't it?
That's what she's written, yes.
And in your internal marketing strategy documents, you viewed coupon programs as an investment upon which you expected a return in the form of increased prescriptions. Correct?
Again, I would disagree with the roll around return. The role of a sample program or a coupon program is to help a patient trial the drug, or the physician to trial the drug to understand whether or not it is an appropriate drug for them.
Your Honor, may I approach? It's 0582. Here's your State's Exhibit 0582. This is a document titled Duragesic, the Tipping Point, 2003 Tactical Plan, October 8, 2002. Offer this into evidence at this time.
We'll review it now, Your Honor. We have no objection to this document.
State's Exhibit 0582 will be admitted into the evidence.
Are we published this, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
They made me see there 2003 Tactical Plan, October 8, 2002, the tipping point. You see that?
I see that.
Now, we'll go over this entire document later, but you just brought up something that popped into my head. I sometimes remember things. 2002 Tactical Review Sample Voucher Program. There at the top it says, we've got up on the screen for you, objective, initiate trials of Duragesic earlier in the chronic pain treatment continuum. See that?
I see that.
Representative delivered sample voucher for a box of 25 MCG or 50 MCG patches redeemed at pharmacy for a free 15-day trial of Duragesic. See that?
I see that, yes.
Audience, chronic pain, 50 to 90 pain specialists and PCPs, oncologists, first-time users. See that?
I see that.
All right, $300,000 investment. You see that?
I see that.
And internally, you looked at what?
It says return on investment down here.
And
13
what
to 1.
was the return on investment?
It says 13 to 1.
But y'all didn't do it to return an investment, did you? No.
Again, I have not seen this document, so
Y'all were just helping doctors and educating doctors and helping everybody. You weren't in it to make money.
we are a for-profit company, yes.
13 to 1 is pretty good return of investment, right?
Again, this, the intention of the sample program is to offer that initial trial for the patient.
Let's turn to the next page, Mike. Facts are stubborn things. 2000.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's just a speech. Is that a question? Thank you.
Tactical review. Incremental total prescriptions per month vary by specialty. Program was analyzed over a 6-month period. You see that?
I do.
And it shows you the incremental net prescriptions on the coupons based on where they went. Primary care, pain specialists, oncologists, and overall. You see that?
I see the graphic.
Okay. You had a 13 to 1 return on investment. Let's go back to the first page, Mike. So just on that one sample alone with that targeted audience that adds up to about 180 for an investment of $300,000, you could make $3.9 million. That's what 13 times 300 is, isn't it?
I'd have to get out the calculator. I don't know.
Oh, here you go. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Pick that up for me, please. Let's do it. This is Judge Mike Burgess, or excuse me, Mike Burgess' phone. If you'll do the math, please.
13 times 13. Yes,
You just did a simple math calculation on Mike Burge's iPhone, and what was the result?
3.9
Thank you. 3.9.
million.
Thank you. So let's go back to Ms. Van Berkeley's document for a minute. We're not just using coupons to educate, we're using coupons to make money. Would you agree with me?
Again, I would say we're using the coupons to facilitate a trial for a patient and a doctor. And this analysis shows that that trial facilitated utilization of the drug.
And it works.
Well, again, if the patient ends up liking the drug or is, appropriately, if the analgesia is appropriate for them, if they stay on the drug, yes.
Coupons increase prescribing.
Coupons increase trial, and ultimately, if that is appropriate for the patient would stay on.
There's a cause and effect relationship.
Well, again, some patients may not continue on the product,
And some do.
and some do.
And it works well enough that you can make 3.9 million just off an investment of 300,000.
And
Your
again,
document, your words.
And I believe that's an estimate, so
That's what it said.
it said that on the document, yes.
Thank you. Now, if we look at this one, back to, Mike, please go to 4 on the previous page. Ms. Van Berkelo, your sales agent, says, be very enthusiastic about the coupons. Make the physicians feel special because they are a part of only a select few that have the opportunity to participate in the coupon program. You see that?
I see that.
Your sales rep talking about making a doctor feel special with respect to a Schedule II narcotic, right?
They are describing the fact that these are select individuals that are getting these coupons.
Goes on to say that the coupon program, this is on number 5, is a great way to respond to a doctor that says a lot of my patients prefer taking pills. You see that?
Where is that?
Number 5. Sorry, you can just look at the screen. I'll walk up there. That might help.
I see it.
May I approach
see
you?
it.
You got it? Okay, thank you. So look what happens next. This is your sales rep. I respond by saying, I believe that a patient in true chronic pain will try anything that you prescribe them because all they want is pain relief, right?
It says that here.
Goes on to say, why not use a coupon that allows the patient to try Duragesic for free? You and the patient have nothing to lose. You see that?
I see that.
But that's not true, is it? It's not true that they have nothing to lose.
Well, this is a patient that is in chronic pain that they are prescribing a long-acting opioid for.
They stood to lose everything.
Well, and I think you're reading into this the words that she meant here.
I am
I believe so, yes.
a patient who gets on Schedule II narcotic, who becomes addicted, can indeed lose everything. You were here, weren't you, when Mr. Box testified?
Excuse me, Your Honor, he's not letting her testify about the answer to his question.
I'll withdraw that. Go ahead, please.
What was your question?
A patient who takes a long-acting Schedule II narcotic opioid stands to lose everything.
Object to the form of the question. Calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I'm still waiting for your question.
I can't ask any more simpler than that, ma'am, but I'll try.
I don't-
Addiction's a
I
life skill.
apologize. I'm not hearing a question. I'm just hearing you state something. So I apologize if you don't think I'm answering your questions.
No problem. I'll do better. Addiction can kill you, right?
Addiction could lead to death, yes.
And if you have a patient who really is in pain, who really needs a drug, as your person says here, they can get desperate, right?
Potentially.
They can be willing to try anything, right?
Well, and I don't think that that's the context of of what she's saying here,
What I asked you is if a patient's in pain, they can be desperate, right?
potentially.
And when that patient goes into the doctor's office and the door's shut and it's just the patient and her doctor, there has to be a relationship of trust, intimacy, and safety, right?
You would hope, yes?
There should not be, before that door was closed, a sales representative in that same room telling the doctor that when they come in here, they will be so desperate they'll do anything you prescribe for them. That is not the place of a pharmaceutical company, is it?
And I don't think that that's what she's saying here.
It says it in black and white. I believe that a patient in true chronic pain will try anything that you prescribe for them because all they want is pain relief. It says that, right?
It says that here, yes.
And let's remember, because we're going to get to this later, when patients come to the doctor, if the doctor's worried about abuse and addiction, that doctor has to be ever so careful to make sure that every risk, every danger is thoughtfully considered before a prescription is issued, right?
Absolutely.
We should never minimize data, right?
Data,
Yes.
we should present the benefits and risks in totality, yes.
We should never overstate function, ever.
Overstate,
Let me say that differently. We'll get to never overstate efficacy.
right, you would go to your label.
Never overstate that your drug will make people function better.
Basically stay to label to ensure that you are presenting the benefits and risks associated with your drug.
And never, ever understate the risk of abuse or addiction, right?
Well, you don't want to underestimate or underrepresent, no?
Ever.
Again, I don't believe we did, but no, I would say no, you don't want to underestimate that.
If you did do it, if you did understate the risk of addiction, that would be wrong.
Excuse me, asked and answered, Your Honor, at least 3 or 4 times just
Sustained.
since lunch.
We can move on. Your Honor, will approach, please. May it please court. States 1703. Page 1703. ma'am. Your Honor, we've moved to admit States 1703. This is an email between 2 J&J employees in December 3rd, 2001, entitled Message Refinement.
No objection.
States Exhibit 1703 will be admitted into the evidence.
Maybe publish this one, Your Honor. Thank you. So, ma'am, here we have an email, and it says at the top, just kind of go through this. They're talking about a Duragesic team meeting. It says, as I mentioned this morning at the Duragesic team meeting, I have grave concerns about the acceptability of the DAWN data based on absolutely negative response at the scientific ad board. You see that?
I see that.
If there had been any shades of gray, I wouldn't be so concerned. See that?
I do.
While these are pain specialists, their opinions will carry weight and could compromise any message we send. You see that?
I do.
It goes on to say that let's look at number 2. The doc saw Dawn as representative of an entirely different and unrelated population, street drug users as opposed to the patients, a very different group, they contend. You see that?
I do.
They say they felt that if Duragesic were as widely distributed as available as OxyContin, it would have the same uptake in the abuse community and would lead Janssen down the path to problems followed by Purdue. More ... You see that?
I do.
Okay, so your folks are talking about DAWN data. It's a drug, it's an awareness, how do I get it right? Warning network. I always want to say something else. The Drug Awareness Warning Network, which was a reporting of incidents of ER admits based on abuse. You're familiar with that?
Yes.
And your scientific ad board, we looked at one of those documents earlier today, said do not use non-data in the messaging of selling your product, right?
It said specifically to the Dawn report, yes,
And this one says it as well, right?
in this 2001 timeframe, yes.
And there's another message there that says, if you widely distribute your drug, fentanyl patches, as widely as OxyContin, it could have the same uptake in the abuse community and lead Jansen down those paths, right?
It says that it may, yes.
It would have,
It would lead.
yes. Okay, we're done with that one. Your Honor, may I approach with,
Let's go ahead and take a break.
thank you.
I'd like to come back at 3:20.
All right.
fact, with this for planning purposes, I'd like to put it right around 5 or later than today.
Yes, Your Honor.
I'll cut you off for getting to that point.
I have nothing planned at 4:55 that Mr. Otway is going to be concerned about. So.
I'm perfectly willing to leave at 4:50.
May I approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, we're approaching with states 0629. And that to you, ma'am? Your Honor, this is a bulletin memo from Janssen to Salesforce dated June 12, 2000. We'd move that it be admitted as evidence at this time.
No objection, Your Honor.
0629 will be admitted to the evidence.
May we publish it?
Yes, you may.
And then from time to time, you would send out sales bulletin or informational packets to your sales force, right?
Yes,
And here, we have something that went out to all of your sales force, including the 275 fields sold for. Excuse me. I got distracted and stuttered on myself. It went out, this document, June 12, 2000, went out to all of your sales force, including the 275 field sales force, correct?
it appears it went out to the 275, the elder care, the hospital specialty, long-term care, and orthobiotech.
And the subject line is review of trends in medical use and abuse of opioid analgesics. You see that?
I do.
It says attached for your review is an article published in the April 5 issue of the Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA, which discusses the use and abuse of opioid analgesics from 1990 to 1996. Do you see that?
I do.
It goes on to say the authors found that the present trend of increasing medical use of opioid analgesics to treat pain does not appear to contribute to opioid analgesic abuse. Let's just stop there for a second. You see there the fifth or sixth word, it says the authors found that the present trend of increasing medical use. That's the word they use, present, right?
It says that here, yes.
Okay. The next sentence says, this article should be helpful in discussing these issues with your physicians and should enhance your understanding of the potential for abuse or misuse in the context of pain management. You see that?
I do.
So you're telling your sales force to refer to this article when talking to doctors and discussing the potential for abuse or misuse in the context of pain management, right?
It just says that this article should be helpful in discussing these issues.
Okay. And it doesn't say talking just about Duragesic, it's talking about increasing use of opioids to treat pain, not appearing to contribute to opioid analgesic abuse, right?
It says the understanding of potential for abuse or misuse in the context of pain management.
Okay. And as you go down, so it's opioids. It doesn't say Duragesic or Oxycontin or anything else. It just says opioid.
It says opioid analgesic abuse, as far as I'm reading right now.
It goes down to say Jorgensen et al., and it discusses this article. See that?
I do.
It says they use the Drug Abuse Warning Network, DAWN, a nationally representative sample of hospital emergency department admissions resulting from drug abuse as a source for data on opioid abuse from 1990 to 1996. See that?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Now, if you go down, it says, the authors write that the present trend of increasing medical use of opioid analgesics to treat pain does not appear to be contributing to increases in the health consequences of opioid analgesic abuse.
It says that, yes.
Okay. Now, Jorgensen et al. Was David Jorgensen, Aaron Gilson, and June Dahl from the Pain Policy Study Group at the University of Wisconsin, a group that was a member of the Pain Care Forum. Did you know that?
I did not.
And what happens with DAWN data is that there's a 2-year lag. So in 1998, you would be dealing with data from 1996. You with me so far?
I am.
And so with this article, it was published in 2000. So,
Excuse me, Your Honor, this is just Brad testifying. He hasn't established the witness knows any of this.
and thank you, Your Honor. So this article was published in 2000.
The Joranson article?
Yes, ma'am. So we're talking about an article in 2000. The date of this memo is 2000, right?
It says that, yes.
But we're talking about using an article with data from 1996. We've established that, right?
It says that this shows the changes in use and abuse from 90 to 96.
Okay, now do you remember during opening statement, Jansen used a timeline with upticks in opioid sales and abuse and death, and we showed, and Jansen showed 1991 for Duragesic originally being launched, and then 1997. Remember all that?
I remember.
Okay, so 1996 is where this data stopped. See it on you, right?
I do.
Something happened in 1996. Oxycontin got launched, right?
Yes.
Something else happened that we've already established in 1997. Duragesic was relaunched for non-cancer pain. We've already talked about that email from Katie Chupa.
Well, I think that we expanded into non-cancer pain. I don't know as we relaunched.
Expanded into non-cancer pain.
Yes.
Okay? So 3 years after you did that would come 2000, right?
Correct.
Now, your company is telling your sales force in 2000 to use a report based on 1996 data to suggest that increases in opioid analgesic prescribing are not tied to increases in ER visits. That's what's happening.
No.
Yes. It says it right here.
Excuse me, Your Honor. The witness gets to answer the question. Mr. Beckwith doesn't get to argue. The argument is
I'll agree with Mr. Otway. I apologize. It says right here, the article should be helpful in discussing these issues with your physicians and should enhance your understanding of the potential for abuse or misuse in the context of pain management. You see that?
I do.
It says at the bottom, the authors write that the present trend of increasing medical use of opioid analgesics to treat pain does not appear to be contributing to increases in the health consequences of opioid analgesic abuse, right?
I see that here, yes.
And as we established, I'm sorry, you finished? You said yes?
It says it there. And the graphic above is medical use increasing and abuse, like, that's the chart they're looking at.
Right. There's nothing present tense at all about what happened in 1996 when you're talking about 2000, is there?
It clearly states this is data is from 90 to 96.
And it also clearly states that they're saying it's a present trend, right?
The authors say that.
That's what this says. The authors write that the present trend of increasing medical use. You see that?
I do.
Okay. Now, your KOL board that we talked about, we used a document that happened in 2001, advised you there's a problem with Oxycontin. Remember we went over that?
Yes?
Okay. Now, Aaron Gilson, who wrote that article, will testify in this case. Are you aware of that?
No.
Okay. We'll testify about this document.
Who is Aaron Gilson?
He's the author
Of,
of that article.
okay.
And Joranson and Dahl, they all work together at PPSG. Let's go to this. Thank you, ma'am. Now, may I approach with State 2522? Thank you. Your Honor, this is a similar update to the sales force, we'd move for admission at this time of states 2516.
We have no objection to this document.
Which exhibit number?
I think you said.
I've got the wrong one on mine. What number is it? I can do that. I think I had the wrong one. That's fine.
2522 or 2516?
Which one do you have, man? We can do either one.
I have 2522.
Okay, we'll do that one.
We have no objection to 2522.
2522 will be admitted into the evidence. Admission abolished.
Now, ma'am, exhibit 2522, I apologize for the mess up there. This is another one of these Salesforce memos, correct?
It appears that it is an update memo, yes.
All right, and we're not going to go into great detail about this, just want to look at it. This is going to it, and it's to your Salesforce, and it says article summary, and it refers to an article, evaluation of long-term efficacy and safety of transdermal fentanyl in the treatment of chronic non-cancer pain. You see that?
I see that, yes.
It says, as a sales representative, you may encounter questions regarding the results of recently published clinical trials involving Duragesic. You see that?
I do.
The purpose of this communication is to inform you of a recent publication in the Journal of Pain by Keith Milligan, in which the long-term efficacy and safety of Duragesic was evaluated for the treatment of chronic non-cancer pain. You see that?
I do.
Well, you can set that aside. Now we'll do 2516. My apologies, Mr. Otway. May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And now we'll hand you 2516. Your Honor, this is another example of these bulletins. We move to admit it at this time.
We have no objection to 2516.
2516 will be admitted into the evidence.
Okay, ma'am. Now, may we publish this, Your Honor? So this is another memo to the Salesforce dated July 19, 2001. And once again, it's sending out an article. It says, article summary, randomized crossover trial of transdermal fentanyl and sustained release oral morphine for treating chronic non-cancer pain. You see that?
I do.
Again, it says, as a sales representative, you may encounter questions regarding clinical trials with Duragesic. The purpose of this communication is to inform you of a recent publication in the British Medical Journal, BMJ, which evaluated the use of Duragesic compared to sustained release oral morphine for chronic non-malignant pain. You see that?
I do.
Okay. That I'll represent to you is commonly referred to as the Allen study.
The what?
Allen, A-L-L-E-N, excuse me. And here it goes on to say, this PNU provides an overview of the study and comments on key points in italics whenever possible. As always, use only approved promotional materials when discussing Duragesic with healthcare professionals. You see all that?
I do.
Okay, so this was sent out to your sales force, correct?
It appears to, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach? Ma'am, I'm going to hand you State Exhibit 0740. Your Honor, State's Exhibit 0740 is an email among Janssen employees dated November 5th, 2002 that has a promotional slide kit attached to it. We would move to admit it into evidence at this time.
We have no objection to this exhibit.
Thank you.
States 740 will be admitted into the evidence.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. if we can go to the email there, Mike, if you'll just turn to the attached document. Man, we'll go through this. I'll kind of walk you through it, but if you see something that you need to slow down and read, you just let me know, okay? We're going to try to move along and talk about a few pages in here. So the title of this is Psychological Dependence with Opioids, with a focus on Duragesic. And it says Janssen Pharmaceutical Products LP, correct?
Yes.
So if you'll turn, we'll just do it on the screen here, but you can turn along with me. I think it's about the third page in. It says, other items not to be confused with addiction. This document's talking about the risk of addiction, and if you go in a little bit, it talks about psychological dependence. Go to the next page, Mike. And then it talks about terms not to be confused with addiction. And we've heard some testimony about this already. It lists three. One, you have physical dependence. Do you see that?
I see that, yes.
Tolerance. Correct?
I see that, yes.
And then you're listing in your document pseudo-addiction, right?
I see that, yes.
Here that refers to aberrant drug-seeking behaviors due to the undertreatment of pain. Behaviors cease once pain is relieved, correct?
That's what it says here,
You
yes.
see that? Okay, now if you'll turn to the next page. Here in your own internal documents, talking about how to talk about addiction, it says risk of iatrogenic addiction, short-term exposure to opioids in non-addicts. You see that?
I do.
And here we look at some studies that are listed. And the first one that Janssen's using is Porter and Jitt, 1980. Do you see that?
I see that, yes.
Refers to the Boston Collaborative Drug Surveillance Project, right?
It says that, yes.
Now this is in November 5th, 2002. This is an abuse presentation for Janssen using Porter and Jitt under the headline, Risk of Iatrogenic Addiction, Short-Term Exposure to Opioids. You see it right there.
As I read through, or as I look at this document, it appears that this is a document that our scientific liaisons, if questioned about all of the different data that's available in the marketplace, they would give an overview of all that different medical information that is available. So this is basically they go out and they see all of the different data that is available in the marketplace, and under the guidance of a medical information request comes in, this is the type of deck that they would go out and present to an inquiring physician about.
Great.
That's what I see this as.
Okay, let's go back to the cover under the email. Next page. I'm glad you said that. It reminded me of this first page. So here we have this presentation, and it says Janssen Pharmaceutical Products LP, right?
Where are you?
If you'll look at the screen, it might help.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you went. I see that, yes.
And it leaves blank city and state.
Oh, yes,
It leaves blank the name.
yes.
Any of your folks that were out speaking could use this document in the way that you described.
This would be, again, a scientific liaison, a PharmD, as you see right there. So that would be a scientific liaison under the guidance of a medical information request that would come in from a treating clinician.
From a treating clinician.
From a clinician, yes.
And it would have Janssen Pharmaceutical Products under it, right?
That would be their title, the individual who's going out to talk with them.
Okay. Now, let's go back to where we were, Mike. Keep going. Next page. So here we've got another example, long-term exposure to opioids in addicts. And this suggests a study in 1996 that shows that when 20 patients with both chronic pain and substance abuse problems on chronic opioid therapy 9 out of 10 abused opioid medication. See that?
9
9
out
out
of
of
20?
20, I apologize. Abused opioid medication. You see that?
I see that.
Okay, so let's go to the next page, and it'll all come together here. So what is happening here is this suggestion is made that when you're dealing with the risk of addiction or aberrant behavior with opioids, your patient can fall on either side of the spectrum. If it's short-term exposure to opioids in non-addicts, risk is less than 1%. You see that?
I see that.
And it cites Porter and Jit.
But it also cites that it was presented at the NIDA meeting on
Right?
April 10th. So it appears that this is not a Janssen-created slide.
That's not what I asked you. This document right here says low short-term exposure to opioids in non-addicts, and it cites Porter and Jit, right?
That's what it says there, yes.
Then it shows on the other side, high. Long-term exposure to opioids in addicts, 45%. That's the Dunbar and Katz study we just looked at, right?
It says that here, there, yes.
Okay, now, Mike, can you turn to the page that says Dawn Statistics 2001? I think it's one more, Mike. So here, there's a discussion of Dawn, the Drug Abuse Warning Network, talks about how information is collected and gathered. And it says Dawn does not measure prevalence of drug use in the population, but rather the health consequences of drug use that are reflected in visits to hospital ERs. See that, man?
I do?
If we'll go to the next page, Mike. If you can skip to one that says Dawn Statistics 2001. So here we're talking about fentanyl combinations category, and it includes different drugs that are mentioned. Transdermal fentanyl, other pharmaceutical formulations of fentanyl like Addicts, and illicit fentanyl analogs, China White, Goodfellas, and things like that. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Here it says Dawn methodology does not attribute emergency department visits directly to Duragesic or any other pharmaceutical fentanyl brand. They are all reported as one combined statistic. See that?
I do?
And we go on to show a pie chart about the mentions made up, 9% of total emergency department mentions for the year 2001. Correct?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Now, y'all knew that Dawn was not a reliable statistic to use with respect to your fentanyl. You knew that at this time, didn't you?
I don't believe so, no. I don't agree with that.
You did not know?
I don't agree that it wasn't, however, what did you just say? I didn't agree with the way you said that, no.
Well, this email, the cover of this is 2002, right?
Yes.
And your advisory board in 2001 told you, when it was looking at messages, said, don't refer to Dawn. And every one of them, the consensus was don't refer to Dawn. Do you remember that?
I remember, don't refer to the Dawn data of 2001, yes.
Okay, thank you. We're done with that document. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
I'm going to hand you the states 0037. Your Honor, yeah, this is an internal Janssen media response document in response to an FDI advisory committee meeting. We'd offer it into evidence at this time as a Janssen document. It's dated March 29th, 2002, and then September 9, 2003 revised.
No objection.
State's Exhibit 37 will be amended into the evidence.
May we publish this, Your Honor?
Yes.
So this document was a media response document created in response to an FDA advisory committee meeting. It goes through different things that we'll talk about here if we don't mind. It's referencing potential output from an FDA advisory meeting. And one of the things we see here in the bold italics is Janssen's opinion of marketing practices of Purdue. Do you see that?
I do.
And there's a suggested response that says it is inappropriate to comment on the practices of other manufacturers. Do you see that?
I do.
Now, do you agree with that?
I agree, yes.
Okay. It's inappropriate to comment on the practices of other manufacturers.
I wouldn't comment on the practices.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next one says Janssen's opinion regarding whether OxyContin is more prone to abuse than other opioids and thus should be restricted. And the statement is it's inappropriate to comment on the abuse potential of other manufacturers' products. You see that?
I do.
Do you agree?
That is what is written here.
Okay. Now, let's go down a little lower. Overall extent of opioid abuse, do you see that?
I see that, yes.
It says, unfortunately, it is impossible to provide this information. There are many sources of opioid abuse data, but they differ in how they collect, analyze, and present it. Even the DAWN database, which is generally accepted by many in the field, has limitations. That says it there in black and white, right?
I see that, yes.
Okay. So your company, in response to questions, is saying that even the DAWN database has limitations, right?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Next, it says risk of addiction in patients taking opioids for legitimate reasons. It says chronic pain patients treated appropriately with opioids by physicians rarely become addicted. You're making that statement in this document, right?
I see it written here, yes.
And it goes on to say, in fact, according to a press release from the American Pain Foundation, let's stop there for a second. The American Pain Foundation was an organization that you helped fund, you provided money to.
They were an advocacy organization that we engaged with, yes.
And at one time, you referred to them as your go-to partner.
And again, I don't know what that was referred to, but it was in a document, yes.
Okay. It says, according to them, the vast majority of people who are given these medicines, opioids, by doctors will not become addicted. You see that? And it's quoting American Pain Foundation quote from Russell Portnoy. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Now, it says these medicines, right?
I see that, yes.
It says opioids, right?
It says that, yes.
You were in marketing for a while, correct?
I was, yes.
You're familiar with marketing. Go ahead, take it. You're familiar with marketing slogans, right?
Marketing campaigns,
Yes, ma'am.
I am.
And sometimes we have unbranded marketing campaigns that talk about a product area but don't talk about a specific product, right?
That would define unbranded.
So
It's
like,
not specific to a product.
so like Got Milk, that was one.
That would have been, I would guess, from the Dairy Association, but talking about milk.
Right. So from the Dairy Association, but it's not talking about Borden's Milk or Shep's or Horizon, it's just milk.
Correct.
Or beef, it's what's for dinner. That's an example of one, right?
Yes.
And it's
I
not
guess.
talking, okay.
Probably wouldn't use those examples, but okay, yes.
Yeah, but you use unbranded marketing, and there's things like that that when you just use the term, it incites an understanding about the entire category. Beef, milk. Those are two examples, right?
So it would be in the therapeutic area. Education in the therapeutic area is the way you're describing it. Well, in the area that you're
Consumption.
discussing.
Okay, so let's look at this. This doesn't say Duragesic, does it?
It does not.
So we heard Johnson & Johnson the first morning of this trial say that your opioids had a low abuse potential, and there were some statistics used that we'll get to later. But here, you're not talking about your drugs, you're talking about opioids, right?
That is what it says here.
All opioids.
Well, and again, this is, again, what we talked about earlier. This was in the market. This is what the market believed at this time, based on the data that they had available.
Okay, I understand your answer, but I'm not asking that. I'm saying what you're talking about here is not limited in any way to short-acting or long-acting, patches or pills, or any brand. It's just opioids.
Well, it is talking about chronic pain patients, but it is talking about opioids, yes.
Now, Noramco supplied active pharmaceutical ingredient for a lot of opioids.
So
True.
again, I'll reiterate that I have no understanding of Noramco in the processes or anything to do with Noramco, but based on what you've shown me, Noramco did manufacture, supply the API ingredient for some opioids,
A lot of different kinds.
the opioids that you showed me.
Opioids. 1%. Low. Well, that's not fair. Let me go back. Opioids. Chronic pain patients treated appropriately with opioids by physicians rarely become addicted. That's what it says here, right?
Yes, and as I said before, that was what the market believed. That was what was in the marketplace at that time.
The marketplace where you marketed.
The marketplace that was, that the KOLs existed in, that the information that was out there, this was what the market, the opioid market was putting forth.
You were the opioid market.
No,
You just said the opioid market. You sold opioids.
we did sell opioids, yes.
You created the Norman Poppy.
Yes.
Your Honor, I object. She's testified she doesn't have any knowledge about that.
Your Honor, we have all kinds of documents and evidence about this already.
The point's still made. Thank you.
Now let's move to the next page. Here we go into something that says abuse incident risk for Duragesic specifically. It says at Janssen, our internal database records, spontaneous reporting of adverse events, and in some cases this may include reports of abuse. You see that?
I do?
Spontaneous reporting is often incomplete and introduces significant limitations to accurately determine incidents or rates of abuse, right?
I see that, yes.
And here we have it. For this reason, we tend to acknowledge other independent sources, such as the DAWN Drug Abuse Early Warning Network database for specifics about Duragesic. See that?
I do?
The DAWN data suggests that abuse with Duragesic has been low since the product's introduction in the United States more than 10 years ago, right?
I see that, yes.
Now, your own advisory board told you not to use DAWN in your messaging. But here you go, in your media output, after an FDA advisory meeting, doing just that.
But I believe that this is referring to the updated DAWN data that was brought out, if you look at the next description.
Well, let's do that. Let's go to the next part. None of your documents that we've gone over ever talked about updated or one data or the other. It said don't use DAWN data. It has limitations, right?
But this is updated DAWN data through a period of time that's beyond what you had said earlier.
So let's go
So
to
this
that.
goes through, I believe, 2000.
Let's go to the next one. If pushed on abuse issue in Duragesic, it says according to the most recent and revised Drug Abuse Warning Network, DAWN, of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, out of the 601,563 drug-related emergency department episodes in 2000, fentanyl, it lists the different kinds, and fentanyl combinations were mentioned 76 times, less than 0.1%. You see that?
I do?
Compared to 10,825 for oxycodone and oxycodone combinations. You see that?
I do?
At the end it says Janssen only markets fentanyl in the transdermal formation. You see that?
I do?
So right there, you're using DON data, and it actually says if pushed on abuse issue and Duragesic, and it refers to that data, right?
It does, yes.
Okay. We'll turn to the next page, please. There's a part that says Janssen's promotion of Duragesic. Do you see that?
What page are we on?
It'll be page 3, ma'am.
I see it there.
Now, it says our promotional efforts are designed to raise awareness of the need for improved pain management and to educate, let's key on that, educate healthcare professionals and patients about the appropriate use of Duragesic. You see that?
I do.
Now, this is not an internal document. This is about how you respond to questions, right?
At an FDA advisory committee, yes.
Okay. So remember earlier when I asked you that if we saw the word influence, and in your document it said influence means educate, for you to alert me and we would talk about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
I do.
Okay. So here we have the word educate. We see that, right?
We do?
We don't see the word influence, do we?
In this sentence? No.
Yeah, because when you talked about your interactions with healthcare professionals privately, you used the word influence. When you talked about it to the public, you used the word educate.
I don't agree with that.
Well, Jansen knew the difference because we see a different word here, educate. It's the first time I've seen it.
Again, I've talked to you about this multiple times. The avenue by which we would even be able to influence any prescription or prescribing habits was through education. So there is a step there that has to take place around education. So when you're describing that, which I'm describing here to you all, is that is our role, is to educate prescribers around the benefits and risks associated with our products. And again, if that subsequently results in the prescribing of our product, then that would equate to influence. So that's why, I always preface that by saying, when you look at internal documents, you have to recognize that there's a step before that that's all around the education.
So my specific question was, y'all know well, let me just start over because I can't even remember what I asked you, so we'll go back to it this way. Jansen knows the difference between writing the word influence and writing the word educate, right?
Again, I think it's being clear in what we're talking about here. In internal documents, I believe that they've skipped the step to say, okay, we educate to ultimately influence. But again, the only way we can do that in the world that we live in medical, is to educate.
So I asked you a different question. Does Jansen know the difference between using the word influence and using the word educate?
I believe Jansen would recognize how people may misconstrue if not able to describe it.
So Jansen does not know the difference between the two words.
I believe we do.
Okay,
It's
thanks.
to be more clear.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach with State 2365?
Yes, ma'am. Any objection?
I have no objection to this document.
2365 will be admitted into the evidence. May publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is, ma'am, another Duragesic Salesforce memo. Here we're having another memo going out to the Salesforce, and it says, congratulations to the 500 Salesforce. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay, if we go to market update, Okay, this is very similar, almost identical to the one we used earlier, but it's the next year. So you'll see here it says, with the addition of your focused efforts, we were able to surpass 400 million in 2000. You see that?
I do, but it
And-
does seem like it's the same document.
I believe it's next year, isn't it? Yeah, this is to the 500 sales force. The one before was to the 275. But the point here is, this is the same messaging we saw earlier to the 500 sales force.
Okay.
You remember we saw this document with very similar wording that went to what you called the 275 sales force? You
Yes.
give different numbers to different ones.
Yes.
Okay, and again, you see the same messaging about high decile physicians, life uninterrupted, and expanding duragesic use in non-malignant pain, right?
I see similar messaging to the other memo.
Okay, thank you. Now, you also, well, let me just give this to you first. Your Honor, if I may approach with State 2538. Be careful, I've got a big stapler, I don't want you to trip something. You have any objection to this?
It's subject to a prior motion to eliminate on the middle pending, Your Honor. Put that objection in mind.
Real consistent with the previous rulings and in 2538, the evidence of the
Thank you. And we're going to get a couple of documents in, and then we'll come back to these. You know, I'm going to approach with State 2525 and 2524, which is a sponsoring email and an attachment of some visual aids. We'll go over these in a minute, man. This one, I'll get over that. Any objections, Larry?
I have no objection to these documents, Your Honor.
2524, 2525 will be admitted in the evidence.
And as you'll see, we'll go over these in a moment. This is an email sponsoring some different visual aids and marketing materials. We'll just admit into evidence. Next one. Your Honor, I'm going to approach.
I seem to have a marking discrepancy here,
Hold on
Judge.
one
We'll have to get to the bottom of it.
I only see 2525.
Okay, I'll just give you this one. She's got the right. 2524. So I can do the next one, Jim.
No, we have no objection to the one that's just been given us.
There's, all right, Your Honor, may I approach with 2514 and 2515?
Yes.
Well, I'll give you these for another example, it's a
Excuse
sponsoring
me, can we
email.
wait just a second, Judge? We've been given two separate attachments. Perhaps we need to take a look. Two, this, there's two different pictures on the cover, so
Oh, I see what you mean.
I think we've got it resolved, Judge, no objection.
2514 and
2515.
2515.
Okay. Your Honor, may we publish those? We haven't put together.
Yes, and we publish all those that
These will start making sense as we go together. Now, ma'am, you've got a lot of different handouts there, and if you'll turn to the screen, we've got them all put together. The color version's a lot easier to look at. These are different visual aids. We'll just walk you through some of these. So these are promotional handouts you have in front of you. Here's one example of them. This is a promotional handout that says improvements in physical and social functioning. May I approach, Your Honor, so I can see what
Can you reference the page
exhibit are you on?
backwards so we know what we're looking at?
this is 2538. The big blue presentation. Here we have an example of using results from a long-term study. And Mike, if you can walk through this, it shows that in a 12-month study, Duragesic significantly improved scores for physical functioning, summary measurement, and social functioning at 12 months. You see that?
I do.
Here's another example. This is a promotional handout. It says over a decade of proven clinical experience, and one of the things we see here is low reported rate of mentions in DAWN data, and it says the source is the DAWN database. Do you see that?
I do.
Hold on just a second, Mr. Beckworth. I'm not sure that that's in 25.
We can't find that 2538.
Starts on page 18.
That's page 23 of the handout.
So we're just going to walk through some of these examples, but you see here, it's reflected there in the handout, the use of the DAWN database in these promotional materials. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Let's go to the next one. Mr. Landakis, if you want to call it the page number. They're all there now. Okay. This is one of the emails, and this is on which document? 1703. Okay, 1703. Right
Okay, wait.
here. There's an email. It says Christine DeVries, December 3rd, 2001. We went over this earlier. I think it says mention the DAWN data messenger fund. I think we went over this morning. It says, as I mentioned this morning at the Dura team meeting, I have grave concerns about the acceptability of the DAWN data based on absolutely negative response at the scientific ad board. If there had been any shades of gray, I wouldn't be so concerned. While these are pain specialists, their opinions will carry weight and could compromise any message we send. This is something we went over this morning. And it went into the different limitations of DAWN abuse statistics and why your advisory board felt that it was misleading to use DAWN. You remember we went over that this morning?
I remember that. What was the date on this?
I was just going to say, for purposes of the record, Your Honor, 1703 is dated
2000.
2001.
That's correct. Okay, thank you. All right, now here is the one that I gave you a minute. This is state 2538, and this is the one that's titled Hospital Salesforce Cycle 3 Presentation, September 17, 2002. And you have that in front of you. We'll just go through, and the page numbers of the document are referenced on the bottom right corner. It says revised visual aid, and you can see here we have the Life Interrupted campaign, and it says, now I have the freedom to worry less about my chronic pain. You see that?
I see that, yes.
And it tells on the right here how to use it as a primary selling aid
I see that.
and sales calls. Do you see that?
I do.
It does not say educate, it says sales and selling aid, right?
It does say that, yes.
My wife was a teacher. There's educational aids and there's sales aids. There's a difference, isn't there?
Excuse me, Your Honor, I'll just object to the form of the question. I don't think Mr. Beckworth wants his wife called to the stand as an expert.
Well, she's left the state. You can get her here, I'm sure she'll come. There's a difference between educating and selling, right?
So I would say we would educate through the sales aids.
Oh, so you use sales aids to educate.
Well, in this particular, the way it's written here, a sales aid is that physical educational piece.
It doesn't say educate aids, does it?
It does not.
Okay. And it talks about target audiences here, pain specialists, PCPs, nurses, and pharmacists, right?
It does, yes.
And the idea of what's new is linkage between features and benefits and focusing on functionality as a benefit, right?
It says that there, yes.
Okay, let's look at another example of your sales aids. This one says, now I have the freedom to worry less about my chronic pain, life interrupted. Again, what's new? Focus on the functionality benefit, linkage between features and benefits. See that?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Now, this is on 0018. The important features of the revised visual aid are, based on the research and the need to focus our message, we have eliminated patient preference, as it does not drive prescribing behavior. You see that?
Where is that?
Right in front of
No, I mean, where is it and what document?
First page 18. PowerPoint notes.
I
These are
don't,
PowerPoint notes that maybe your copy doesn't have it.
it doesn't.
We'll bring that back up just a second. I must have had a copy problem with the volume we had.
I just didn't see where that was.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll bring it to you. It's from the embedded notes in there. So here's one on page 19, the revised visual aid, consistent pain relief. So here's another example. Chronic pain relief with important patient benefits. It talks about 72 hours of uninterrupted pain relief per patch. Do you see that?
I do?
And it says what and how to use. Again, primary selling aid. You see that?
I do?
All sales calls, right?
I see that?
Target audience, pain specialists, PCPs, and nurses. You see that?
I do?
Okay, let's go to the next one. So here's another one. Revised visual aid, page 20 of efficacy. And it says, demonstrated effectiveness in chronic back pain with additional patient benefits. 86% of patients experienced overall benefit in a clinical study based upon pain control, disability in ADLs, and quality of sleep. You see that?
I do?
Again, it says primary selling aid, all sales calls, right?
It says that, yes.
Target audiences, pain specialists, PCPs, and nurses, right?
I see that, yes.
Nothing about educate.
It does not say educate on this page.
Your Honor, am I okay this statement? All right, let's go to the next one. Another example, page 21. This is talking about improvements in physical and social functioning from a long-term study. And again, over on the right, it says what and how to use. Primary selling aid, all sales calls, right?
It says that, yes.
And over here, it says what's new. New page focused on physical and social functionality results in the Milligan study. You see that?
I do?
And it talks about improvement in functioning scores and social functioning scores. You see that?
I see that, yes.
Okay. Target audiences, again, pain specialists, PCPs, and nurses, right?
I see that, yes.
Let's go to the next one. So here's another example. This is a results from a crossover comparison. And if you see on the right, again, it says a primary selling aid for all sales calls, right?
It says that, yes.
And the suggestion is that page 4 emphasizes the improvement in specific areas such as social functioning, pain, vitality, and mental health. Patients did better in these areas while on Duragesic versus oral opioids, right?
It says that, yes.
And under what's new, it says new page focused on physical and social functionality results from the Allen comparative study. See that?
I do?
Same target audiences, right?
I see that, yes.
Again, we see another one here, a revised visual aid, dawn data. Again, it says what and how to use. You see that?
I do?
This one says something slightly different, doesn't it?
It does?
Primary selling aid. And then what?
Objection handler?
Objection handler, right there on the page, right?
It says that, yes.
Then it says page 5 illustrates fentanyl's low reported rates of emergency department episodes compared to other opioids, such as oxycodone and hydrocodone, right?
It says that, yes.
Okay. Let's come back. The next one. Here's another one. Give your patients the freedom of a life uninterrupted by chronic pain. How to use it. Primary. Primary selling aid, all sales calls. You see that?
I do.
Target audiences, pain specialists, PCPs, and nurses. You see that?
I do.
Okay, let's go to the next page. Page 26. Milligan. It's a study. Here it refers to the Milligan report. Here it says, we talked about this a minute ago, this study supports previous reports that long-term opioid treatment of moderate to severe chronic pain is effective and well tolerated. You see that on the left?
Yes.
Okay. And over here it says what and how to use. It says supplemental to primary visual aid, sales call, lunch and learns, in services. You see that?
I do.
I think we finally have something that might come to education. We've got the word learn. You see that? Learns.
I see that.
But it's hyphenated. It's tied to something else. A what?
A lunch.
Sales call, lunch and learns, in services. That's what it says, right?
It does.
Then it goes down here under quantities and it says each representative will receive 50 reprint carriers, right?
Yes.
Target audience, pain specialists, PCPs, nurses, and pharmacists. See
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Now, on page 27, we've got Duragesic promotional selling tools. Promotional selling tools. We don't see education there. We see promotional and selling, right?
That is written on the page, yes.
Okay, so we'll go here and look at these for a minute. Primary selling aids. Revised core visual aid. Case studies. You see that?
I do.
Supplemental aids. We've got 3. The Simpson reprint carrier, the Allen reprint carrier, and the Milligan reprint carrier. You see those?
I do.
Those are all sales tools and aids listed here to go out to your sales force for promotional selling tools, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Here on page 28, we see some other visual aids. Things like pens, coffee mugs, door hangers, magnetic clips, even a lighted up pen. You see all that?
I do.
A patchet-shaped Post-it. You see that?
Yes.
Little trinkets. The idea being to leave behind for a doctor or his staff or her staff, right?
These were leave behinds, yes.
Nothing educational about a lighted up pen, is there?
No, it's just a reminder.
A reminder, right?
Yes.
Coffee mug. It's a nice coffee mug. There's nothing educational about that, is there?
No, it was a reminder.
A reminder to do what?
It was a reminder of the drug.
Of what drug?
This right here is Duragesic.
Thank you. To sell it.
Well, again, these were provided to doctors that we'd had that educational interaction with, and these were leave behinds to remind them of the drug when that appropriate patient came in.
When they wrote the prescription and it got filled, you got.
We would be reimbursed for that, yes.
So here's an email, State's Exhibit 2525. And you have this there in front of you, I believe. It's dated March 4th, 2004. This is from Molly Foley at Janus to several people, including Katie Chuba. You see that?
Down below, yes, okay.
It says, team, attached are the following new and approved materials incorporating the enhanced messaging for our Grow and Defend Duragesic campaign. You see that?
I do.
Okay. VisAid, technology backgrounder, generic approval process substitution background. You see that?
I do.
Okay, now we see a word here, which is interesting. Below it says, these materials will educate. We have the word educate, don't we?
We do?
Okay. Not influence, educate. You agree with me?
It says educate.
And train. You got that, right?
It says that there, yes.
But then comes the field sales force. Not doctors, the field sales force, right?
That's what it says here, yes.
So when your company wants to talk about educating someone, they know how to do it, they know how to write it, and they know how to spell it. It's right there.
It is written on this document, yes.
Okay. Educate and train the field sales force for either an immediate or the cycle 2 launch of this campaign. It says that, right?
It says that, yes.
And then we have some examples. All the things we just looked at. How these visual aids look. And you can see it there on the screen what I'm talking about. I've put them all together in a plot. Those are all 2524. Now here's 2524.
Wait a second. Say that again to me. What are they from?
Go back. These are the examples of the ones we just looked at, all the ones put together from 2524. What we just went through.
So I don't have 2524 in front of me. I have 2525, I have 2538, 2515, and 2514.
It was the attachment. That's what we just went over.
This one?
Brett, I think that's the one you didn't have attached.
I'm sorry.
It's attachment 2524. We can move on. We just went over all these. We can go to the next one. I'll get you the copy. Okay. So 2514. You have that in front of you? I may help you.
I do.
Okay.
This.
And, yes, ma'am. And then I don't want to get too close to you. Will you look at the next one, 2515? You
don't want to get too close to me?
Well, I would love to. I just don't want to do it without your permission. So we've got 2515. And for the record,
I showered. I did shower. I did shower.
So 2515 are the attachments to 2514. So,
Okay.
You see those?
I do now. You've put several documents in front of me. You're confusing me a bit, but okay.
Yeah, and in the interest of time, we're just trying to get these visual aids to show what they are, and I know we gave you a lot at one time, and I'm sorry for any confusion that caused. We've got them up here on the board. 2514, we have some examples.
No, 2515. This is 2515.
That's the 2515 is the attachment to 2514.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Problem is, it's not attached. So she's got to look at a different example.
Yeah, you can just look to your right and you've got the exhibit. So here we have it as an information for the pharmacist. You see that? Just
Okay.
turn If you turn to that page, we've blown it up. You see again this visual aid, a low reported rate of mentions in DON data. Do you see that?
I see this, yes.
Okay. So kind of stay up your arm, maybe save a little time. I'm going to hand you 2, 5, and 10.
All right, we're done with this?
Yes, sir. Here's 2, 5, 10, and 2, 5, 11.
Is 2511 considered the attachment from 2510? Or are they two separate?
I'm sorry, I was looking at him. I couldn't hear you.
Is 2511 the attachment to 2510? Or
Yes.
is it, okay.
2510 is a sponsoring email. 2511 is the attachment. We'd offer those in evidence at this time.
Any objections?
Working on it. The documents are getting a little, they're stacking up.
How do you think Tanya feels?
Guess we're no longer in turtle mode.
I told you there was a hair at the bottom and we would speed up.
This is another one, Judge, that was subject to prior motion in limine, so we'll object on the same grounds.
Love the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Overrule and admit states 2510, 2511 into the evidence.
Okay, now ma'am, the first one, may we publish this, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Okay, on 2510, there's an email. I'm gonna slow down a little bit. On 2510, there's an email dated November 16, 2007. You see that?
I do.
Okay, if we can publish that. Brett Vincent wrote an email. We'll get to the bottom in a second, but at the top you see it from Brett Vincent, correct?
I do, yes.
Okay, if you'll go down to the bottom of that page, you'll see an email from James Burris to Brett Vincent. We've got it blown up for you there.
I see it.
Okay. It says, Brett, thank you for your summary of the studies used in the slide deck, and I agree with your analysis. These studies have numerous and serious flaws, and from a regulatory perspective, do not represent substantial evidence for the proposed claims. Therefore, are not acceptable for promotional use in any form. You see that?
I do.
In addition, the DAWN data does not provide the evidence needed for the suggested comparative claims. You see that?
I do.
And it says, as additional background, DD Mac specifically commented on the use of DAWN data, as well as other items in the slide deck. Allen, Simpson, Milligan, in the September 2004 warning letter for Duragesic, see attached. You see all that?
I do.
Okay, now the date of this email is 2007.
I see that, yes.
Okay. Now if we go up to the top, Brett Vincent states at 3:33 p.m. on November 16, 2007. Attached is my analysis of the studies. Below is the 2004 DD Mac letter explaining why some of these studies are unacceptable. I learned this morning that the DD Mac letter was shared with the marketing director by regulatory in July 2007. Therefore, the marketing director should not have proceeded to pay an agency to develop the draft slide deck using these studies, then waste my time reviewing a draft whose fate was sealed because the studies had already been rejected by the FDA. You see that?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think we're done with that. Your Honor, may I approach with 1769? Your Honor, we would offer 1769 into evidence. This is an email between Richards Ute and Bruce Moskowitz, who's one of the designated witnesses by Jansen.
No objection to this.
States 1769 will be admitted to the evidence. May publish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now this email, you can read it, and we have it blown up on the screen here. If you look down to the bottom part, there's an email from Bruce Moskowitz, and he's referring to a Duragesic slide kit that's been provided to him. And he says, I can only provide a cursory review as my oversight applies only to the U.S. And there in slide 117, he says, we never, all caps, use the DAWN data to conclude low addiction potential. Do you see that?
I do.
The data can be interpreted in other ways. Fentanyl is a highly addictive opioid. There should be no data present to suggest otherwise. You see that?
I do.
Okay. So this is in December of 2009. Your employee, being Jansen's, Bruce Moskowitz. See that?
I do.
List him as the therapeutic area head, analgesia for Ortho McNeil Janssen Scientific Affairs. Correct?
Yes, it is from, I see Bruce's name on this, yes.
Your Honor, I will ask to approach again with State's Exhibit 0038. This is the 2004 FDA warning letter that you previously said that we could use. We'd ask that it be admitted.
Pursuant to previous motion of limiting number 10, Your Honor, we would renew our objection. It's discussed in previous motions and limiting objections in hearings.
The objection, overrule it, and admit State's Exhibit 38 to the evidence.
Ma'am, we're going to kind of walk through this. In 2004, Janssen Pharmaceutica received a warning letter from the FDA. May we publish this, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Okay. May I approach the board there, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So let's just walk through this, ma'am. You can look there. If it would help you, we can look here and we'll go through it. We're just going to go through it in kind of piecemeal fashion. I'll go back to my turtle mode. Transmitted by facsimile, and here we have a recipient, the CEO of Janssen Pharmaceutica, Inc. And that's there in New Jersey, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, it references a letter to Dr. Sheedy, and it says the Division of Drug Marketing, Advertising, and Communications. That's DDMAC. You heard me refer to that earlier.
Yes?
And it is we're talking about a professional file card for Duragesic submitted by Janssen Pharmaceutica under cover of a form FDA 2253. You see that?
I do.
Now, it talks about this file card. It says the file card makes false or misleading claims about the abuse potential and other risk of the drug and includes unsubstantiated effectiveness claims for Duragesic. You see that?
I do.
Okay. It goes on to say that by suggesting that Duragesic has a lower potential for abuse compared to other opioid products, the file card could encourage the unsafe use of the drug, potentially resulting in serious or life-threatening hypoventilation. You see that?
I see that,
So
yes.
that's the first part of this warning letter from the FDA. Now let's go to the next part. Now, this document goes on to talk about certain false or misleading safety claims. Let's go to the second page. Here it says the file card presents the prominent claim. Low reported rate of mentions in DAWN data along with Drug Abuse Warning Network, DAWN data. Comparing the number of mentions for fentanyl combinations, 710 mentions, to other listed opioid products including hydrocodone combinations, oxycodone combinations, and methadone. You see that?
I do.
The file card thus suggests that Duragesic is less abused than other opioid drugs. You see that?
I do.
Now, over here on the right, if you look at the board, this is from Exhibit 2524, where we have DAWN data being used in handouts that were sales tools. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Go to the next one. Okay. Y'all used DAWN data for several years, didn't you?
We used it in our sales aids.
And you used
Yep.
it here in Oklahoma.
Yes, we did.
It says, and this is in reference to this one packet, this is false or misleading for two reasons. First, we are not aware of substantial evidence or substantial clinical experience to support comparative claim. The DAWN data cannot provide the basis for a valid comparison among these products. As you know, DAWN is not a clinical trial database. Instead, it is a national public health surveillance system that monitors drug-related emergency department visits and deaths. If you have other data demonstrating that Duragesic is less abused, please submit them. You see that?
I do.
And this isn't limiting DAWN data to any specific time. This is talking about DAWN data cannot provide the basis for a valid comparison among these products. You see that?
It says that written here, yes.
Thank you. Go to the next one. It says second, Duragesic is not as widely prescribed as other opioid products. As a result, the relatively lower number of mentions could be attributed to the lower frequency of use and not to a lower incidence of abuse. The file card fails to disclose this information. You see that?
I do.
Now that sounds very familiar to what your advisory board told you in 2001.
Well, again, this is updated data, so
Oh man, the idea that Duragesic is not as widely prescribed as other opioid products and therefore DAWN shouldn't be used, that was told to you by your own advisory board back in that memo we looked at earlier this morning from 2001. You recall that?
yes. And in this data, it was used more. There was more data associated with this, so
So even with more data, still,
Duragesic was not as widely prescribed as others.
and therefore using it was improper, according to this FDA letter.
According to the FDA letter, they don't agree with the use of this data.
Thank you. Well, and according to Moskowitz in 2009, I think it was, he said we never should use DAWN data. That was in 2009. We just looked at it, right?
Post this, yes.
Okay, thank you. Here it says in this letter, in addition, on the page entitled,
Hold on.
sorry,
Objection.
Just note the time, dates, what, I object, and I have a reason, if we can pull up that email. That's not what the email said.
we'll go back to it. Hand it to me. She already answered the question. What's
Well, I'll just
You
note
can
my
just object.
objection to it.
Okay, fine. Whatever the date was, Mr. Moskowitz said, don't use, we had two. One said, don't use DAWN data. We just went over that a minute ago. You recall that?
Well, and Dr. Moskowitz said, never use DAWN data to conclude low addiction potential. This is saying abuse.
Oh, even better. Never use DAWN data to, say it again, please. I want to make sure we have that right, because we want to be completely clear for the record.
Well, and again, he says this in 09, DAWN data to conclude low addiction potential.
Okay. So we've
It's
got,
Exhibit 17.
we've got, sorry, Larry. We've got the FDA saying, don't do it for abuse potential. We've got Mr. Moskowitz saying, don't do it for addiction potential.
That's what's written in this document.
So we've got both covered, use of DAWN for abuse or addiction, right?
The FDA says abuse.
You say addiction.
He's saying addiction.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mr. Otto. I'm glad we cleared that up. Okay,
Well-
here we have, in addition, on the page entitled Favorable Side Effect Profile, the file card presents the claim, minimizes the potential for local GI side effects by avoiding GI absorption, along with the table entitled Adverse Experiences in Patients with Cancer that shows a 14% rate of constipation with Duragesic and a 0% discontinuation rate because of constipation. You see that?
I do.
It says this combination of text and graphics is false or misleading in that it suggests that Duragesic is associated with less constipation, nausea, and vomiting than oral opioids, which are absorbed by the GI tract. You see that?
I do.
We are not aware of substantial evidence or substantial clinical experience to support this comparative claim. See that?
I do.
Remember, we talked earlier about your false and misleading chart that we looked at that lists false and misleading. It said one of the things you can't do is make comparative claims if you don't have the data to support it, right?
Well, and I will say that the FDA did send us this letter, and we did not necessarily agree with them, and we had a back and forth about what they felt was not substantial evidence. And so we ultimately did pull the piece, but we didn't believe that they were accurate in their assessment.
You pulled the piece and you sent it to your doctor letter, right?
We did.
Now, when you pulled the piece, had you told your sales reps never to talk about any of this stuff?
After we received the letter, and we would have presented the Dear Doctor letter, and we would have trained our sales representatives.
After.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. There's the example there, favorable side effect profile that is being referenced in that deck. And you see that from 2524, page 06. Okay, we go next one. Okay, unsubstantiated effectiveness claims. Here, the file card states on page 4, demonstrated effectiveness in chronic back pain with additional patient benefits. And here we go. The reference study conducted by Simpson et al. Is inadequate to support this claim because it was an open-label, single-arm trial with no control group. You see all that?
I do.
We are not aware of substantial evidence or substantial clinical experience to support this claim. See that?
I do.
Okay. Now here's the example. Demonstrated effectiveness in chronic back pain with additional patient benefits. So if you look at the board for a moment, we have the letter, and then we have an example of it being used in practice for 2524. Here's another one. Unsubstantiated effectiveness claims. The file card states on page 4, demonstrated effectiveness in chronic back pain with additional patient benefits. The reference study conducted by Simpson et al. Is inadequate to support this claim because it was an open-label, single-arm trial with no control. And down at the bottom, we see this report. Let's remember this because we're going to come back to it later. Simpson RK. Now, Janssen funded that report. Did you know that?
I did not.
Here we have on pages 4 and 5, the file card includes the claims. 86% of patients experienced overall benefit in a clinical study based on pain control, disability in ADLs, and quality of sleep. You see that?
I do.
Goes through all the things that happen there, and it says, we are not aware of substantial evidence or substantial clinical experience to support these claims. You see that?
I see that, yes.
And here, if you'll look at the board, we have an example of your actual handout showing 86% of patients experienced overall benefit in a clinical study. And this is what the FDA is referring to right there. Do you see those two?
I do.
Okay, thank you. It also says all patients who experienced overall benefit would recommend it to others with chronic low back pain. And then if we look at your handout, it says all patients who experienced overall benefit would recommend it to others with chronic low back pain. See that?
I see that, yes.
And it says again, to support these claims, the file card again cites the Simpson trial. For the reasons noted above, this uncontrolled study is inadequate to support such claims. See all that?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Additional unsubstantiated effectiveness claims. On pages 6 and 7, the file card includes the claims long-term effects, 12-month open-label study. Goes on to say significant improvement in physical functioning summary score and significant improvement in social functioning. And it has figures illustrating these claims. If you look here to your right, we can show you from these exhibits that we've already looked at where the handouts do these exact same things. Can you see these? They're right here. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And the FDA goes on to say that to support these claims, the file card states a study conducted by Milligan et al. This open label, uncontrolled study is not adequate and designed to show an analgesic effect. And it cites the Milligan study. Johnson & Johnson or Janssen funded the Milligan study. Did you know that?
I did not, but oftentimes, again, clinicians will come forward with a idea around research that they would like to do, and it would go through the process that we looked at this morning as far as through the MSLs, and if that research question, or if it answered a research question that we felt would benefit the marketplace, we would fund that, yes.
So you would fund studies and use them in your promotional sales aids?
Well, in this case, we felt this study was addressing a need in the marketplace. So we did feel that it was data that was important to communicate.
So-
The FDA did not agree with us, but we did believe that it was important.
And you funded it.
I don't know if we did or not. You're telling me we did,
Fair
so.
enough, we'll get to those in just a moment. Okay, thank you, Mike. Here's another one. On pages 8 and 9, the FDA file card includes the claims improved patient outcomes, open label crossover comparison study. And then you'll see here, we have an example of what was done. Significant improvement in physical functioning summary score. And then here from 2524, we have where you say significant improvement in physical function summary score. See that?
I do?
Okay. The FDA goes on to say that to support these claims, the file card cites the study conducted by Allen et al. An open label study cannot minimize bias in reporting of subjective response in the SF-36, a general healthcare questionnaire. Now, were you aware that Janssen funded the Allen study that was used in these sales tools?
Again, I was not aware of that. But
The
again,
FDA, sorry.
but again, this would be a study that was probably, or I would guess that the study personnel in this came to us with a research question that they wanted to address.
The FDA goes on to say it is therefore not sufficient to support the cited claims. We are not aware of substantial evidence or substantial clinical experience to support these claims, right?
I see that, yes.
Thank you. The FDA then says, finally, the file card prominently presents the claims 1,360 loaves and counting, work uninterrupted, life uninterrupted, game uninterrupted, chronic pain relief that supports functionality, helps patients think less about pain, and improvements in physical and social functioning. You see that?
I do?
Now, if you look to your right, we have some examples from states 038 of those types of slogans. Here's the loaves and counting, work uninterrupted. Here in the middle is now I have the freedom to worry less about my chronic pain. Here on the right, game interrupted. You see that?
I do?
It says these outcome claims are misleading because they imply that patients will experience improved social or physical functioning or improved work productivity when using Duragesic. See where the FDA said that?
I do.
And it says Janssen has not provided references to support these outcome claims. We are not aware of substantial evidence or substantial clinical experience to support these claims. You see that?
I do.
Thank you. Now, if you look there, if you might, I'll come a little bit next to here. There's this line that says conclusions and requested actions. Do you see that?
I do?
It says the file card makes false or misleading safety claims and unsubstantiated effectiveness claims for Duragesic. The file card thus misbrands Duragesic in violation of the Act. See that?
I do?
And you sent a Dear Doctor letter after receiving this letter, correct?
We did?
Okay. Now, we'll just look at these studies real quick. Give me 1 second. So, I'm going to hand you what we'll mark as states, Exhibit 2517. Copy of one of these studies. Your Honor, this is 2517 is a copy of the Lori Allen study we just mentioned a few minutes ago. I'd like to offer that in evidence.
No objection.
2517 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And we'll just turn to page 006. We're not going to go into the study right now. I just want to help you out on the funding issue. If you'll look over to the screen, I think we can. You don't have it up there. I'll just come up and I can help you. May I approach yours?
You may.
If you look, you see here
It's
at
right
the
here.
bottom, right, it says funding. This study was supported by a grant from Janssen Research Foundation, Belgium. You see that?
I do?
Okay, thank you.
Again, I would reiterate that oftentimes in the marketplace, when your drug is in the marketplace, that we'll use the thought leaders come to us with research questions that they want to research, and we would, in the course of business, look at what they're trying to accomplish. We would look at the study that they want to do, and we would potentially fund that project. But again, it would go through a rigorous process to ensure that they are looking at or have a study design that we feel is appropriate to educate the marketplace.
So thank you, ma'am. So the answer to my question was y'all funded it?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to approach with 2521, and we'll go one at a time. It's 2521. Your Honor, this is the Milligan study. We would offer written evidence at this time.
We have no objection, Your Honor.
2521 will be admitted into the evidence.
Your Honor, may I approach with 2523?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll hand you 2523. We offer 2523 into evidence as well.
We have no objection to this document either.
2523 will be admitted into the evidence.
May we publish both of these, Your Honor?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Okay, Your Honor, I think we have all three. We're just going to deal with these very quickly, ma'am. Okay, we just pulled the funding page from each of those, and Mike, if you can highlight them, it'll be pretty simple.
Again, Your Honor, it's the same explanation that I gave before. Oftentimes, these types of studies would address a question in the market, and it would be likely that we would fund them after a review process.
So you would agree, ma'am, that each of these was indeed funded by Janssen, correct?
It says that right here, yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I can keep going, or I'm at a perfect stopping point, whatever Your Honor would like to do. Perfect.
Before we adjourn, any other announcements?
I don't believe so from us, Your Honor.
So like, finance study, and a lot of it, and put it in the market.
Again, tomorrow
Guess what's
morning
gonna happen in the morning?
at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
We dismiss.
Thank you.